Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the double game week 34 pod of the FPL Wire, powered by DreamSetGo. I'm your host Zophar. My co-host Lateriser and I are joined by a long-forgotten friend, Tom Freeman. How's it going, Tom?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Zoph. It's been a really challenging season, but I always enjoy our chats. So looking forward to delving into our wildcards now. And thanks for having me on as well. Sorry it's been so long.
Big difference from how you were with us last season compared to this now. You're doing FPL full-time. How's the change been?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, we were just saying off air then it's pretty full on. You know, it's all I tend to think about now 24/7, which has its good points and bad points as well. But yeah, no, it's great over at Scout and already putting in some plans in for next year and some new contributors and things. So yeah, really exciting. So yeah, all good.
Fantastic. How was your game week?
Let's not talk about that, Zoph. Seriously though, it's been we'll delve into my season, I'm sure, during the pod, but this week kind of sums it up. I mean, I'm on 37 points so far, compared to others, which I think, including both of you guys, are in the hundreds, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's been really hard. I mean, last night kind of summed it up. I'm a Rudiger owner, I'm a Martinelli owner. Both of them didn't show up, and it's just kind of continued like a really tough patch. But to be honest, when I came on last year, every week I came on was pretty amazing. So for balance, you've got me on a good week this week. But
that's a good point. That's a good.
Yeah. I couldn't come on every time and be flying. So yeah,
you'll be flying next week. You'll be flying next week.
Oh, hopefully, yeah. Get me back on then. So, but no, hopefully it's hopefully now with a wild card in play at the moment, can at least kind of finish the season strongly and then take a bit of that into next year, hopefully.
Right. I don't think there's much to talk about in terms of our week. So should we dive straight in?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. DreamSetGo is India's first sports travel and experiences platform, offering a range of premium end-to-end authentic experiences across football, cricket, tennis, F1, rugby and golf, among others. From matchday hospitality to VIP stadium tours, from private meet and greets with athletes and legends to exclusive access to their training sessions, DreamSetGo curates the most fulfilling sports travel packages for fans like you.
All the stats you see on our podcast are from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. If you aren't a member already, please click on the link in the description below and become a member. Right, boys, let's get stuck in. I'm feeling quite privileged to be doing this pod with both of you because I know how you all operate, and I know there's a lot of homework done, and you all must have been in full FPL mode for the past 4 or 5 days. Wildcard for both of you. First up, we're going to be talking about Chelsea. Off, the floor is yours.
Right. So I think it's important to look at Chelsea's schedule. Even though Chelsea are knocked out of the Champions League, there's still a bit of fixture congestion. Now, after having played the FA Cup on Sunday and played Arsenal on Wednesday, we now play West Ham this Sunday on the 24th. Now, there's a decent gap after that against Man United on the 28th of April, but then 2 days after that is Everton away. A week after, we have a full break. Now we play Wolves, then we play midweek Leeds away, and then FA Cup final about 2 or 3 days after, and then Leicester in the midweek of 37 and 38, and then the final day of the season, we play Watford. I'll just take you guys quickly to Lego Mane's sticker where he's written down the duration between games over here. Now you see the ones marked in red are where you see 2 days. The ones marked in yellow are 3 days. So there's a lot of tricky periods coming now for Chelsea in terms of rotation. And the reason I want to highlight this is, I think right off the bat, we have to say that game week 36 double, I don't see that being a double for Chelsea, primarily because our biggest objective now for the rest of the season is the FA Cup. That would sort of pretty much define it being a good season and third or not. So we're going to see a lot of rotation in that midweek, and we might see some rotation over the next few games as well to make sure we don't injure players. We already have a lot of walking wounded that we saw from the game yesterday. We saw Christensen go out. Rudiger is apparently carrying an injury. Thiago Silva, I think there's something up with him, and I think he's managing an injury. Otherwise, he would have definitely started that FA Cup semi-final. So I think we need to be careful while picking our Chelsea players for this double. Your thoughts, guys? Initial
thoughts?
Tom?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think building a wild card this week, it's an absolute no-brainer to get 3 Chelsea players in. But given that 36, although it is a double, may not be a double for a lot of players, I think you've got to, if you're wild carding this week, I think you've got to have a kind of a rough transfer kind of strategy where you may be looking at moving 1 or 2 of those players out between 34 and 36. So that's something I'm doing with my picks, and just, plans will no doubt change in the next couple of weeks, but at least having a rough kind of plan in mind, I think, is a good thing. But I'm pretty excited to get 3 on board for this double, because from an attacking perspective, I think it's really appealing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the first thought that comes to my mind based on what Utkarsh Zoph has just said, that where in 36, it's not really a double. I'm expecting the Wolves team to be the team that's close to the team that's going to be playing the final. And that's the main fixture. And maybe 3 or 4 of them are playing the Leeds United game. Outside of that, not many first teamers are going to be playing. Now, what that does is somebody like me who's already used up my wild card, I think it opens up a free hit in this week as well. Because currently, I own no Chelsea. I do have 2 free transfers. I own no Chelsea. I want to go heavy on Chelsea and City assets. I think there's no doubt in my head that those are the 2 teams to target if you're looking at 34, assuming you already have your Liverpool in place. So I'm debating that. The big question in my head, Karsh, is that Chelsea actually have a good end to the season, where they play Leicester at home and Watford at home in 37 and 38. So the decision-making factor that's coming in my head at the moment is that if I end up not using the free hit and buying Chelsea players this week, I don't really mind that, because the fixtures in 37 and 38 are pretty decent. How do you see that playing out?
So the trick with 37, that's also 3 days after the FA Cup final. You might see rotation again over there, and then you see a strongest team play against Watford. You might see scattered. You might see half the first team against Leicester, half the first team against Watford, or a clear demarcation. The guys who play Leeds, they get to play Watford. But for the overriding message from Tuchel and all the press conferences and the articles, he wants to give everybody minutes. That seems to be a priority. And I think what has happened, the Arsenal result yesterday sort of made Chelsea assets more investable for a longer period. I think if we have won yesterday, we beat West Ham, we beat United, and that's pretty much the league sealed. We don't really need to. Now we possibly have to focus a bit more. So that's possibly made things a bit more optimistic in terms of Chelsea assets.
Let's talk players. We'll start with defense. Where are you at with them? I mean, you all conceded 4 goals to an Arsenal. Tell us about the game. I didn't see the game. So what went on yesterday?
So as soon as I saw the lineup, I knew this was going to be catastrophic, because we are playing firstly Sard and Alonso on the same side. Never a good idea. Then you're playing Christensen, who's been completely out of form. His head's in Barcelona. He really doesn't want to be there. And we were playing James at centre back, which I believe is a completely foolish decision. You're taking your best attacker out and putting him in a defensive position. And you're putting Aspie there, who's quite limited going forward, and he can be exposed against pace. That's a problem. So let's talk in terms of picks over here. Now we have a lot of injuries. Now Christensen going out is a problem. Thiago Silva, I think, should start both games in this double, because he's got a rest after. But then again, he's a problem for the Everton game. So I don't mind somebody like him on a free hit. He's not bad. Now Alonso is a bit of a dilemma. I think he's quite interesting and something worth discussing. He got into very promising positions yesterday, but his defending was absolutely horrendous. Every single time Saka was running at him, he was being left behind miles. And what might happen, I think, just purely due to lack of centre backs, we might be forced to go to a 4. I just don't see how we can put 3 centre backs on the pitch right now if Thiago Silva isn't going to be on there. If Rudiger's injury persists, I think you could possibly play Rudiger, Chaloban, maybe Azpilicueta and James there. Something it becomes very makeshift. And another major problem that's been happening is Kante. Kante's form has slumped significantly. He's not able to give protection to the back 5. And Kovacic is also injured now. So that usually means that I think most likely we're going to be playing Jorginho, Loftus-Cheek and stuff like that. So defensively, our prospects have gotten a lot worse. That's where I am with those guys. Your thoughts on Alonso, Tom?
Yeah, well, he's currently in the draft because it's that upside, isn't it? I mean, we saw last night, I think it was about 5 shots against Arsenal. And I think with Werner in the team, I actually think by him stretching, the opposition backlines, it actually creates space down that side. So not only for players like Mount, but for players like Alonso as well to attack. And so I think that's a good thing for him. But the worry is now is that in a reaction to that defeat, do they stick with a 3 or do they go to a 4? Because if they go to a 4, Alonso can't play in a 4, can he? So that's, you're probably going to see Sarr at left back again, or even if they do stick to a 3, there is Saul has come in and played there, hasn't he? I don't see Alonso getting dropped in a 3. I don't think he's done that much wrong. He's just defensively a bit suspect, isn't he? Which we know, but it's that kind of upside on a wild card of chasing that huge haul. It's either him or James for me, and because James has been that right-sided centre half a bit, that makes me worry a little bit, because that is going to dent his attacking output, isn't it? It's probably good for his minutes, but you want the wing backs. You saw Azpilicueta last night, and in that wing back role, he's limited in a sense, but you saw those positions. You saw the way he's attacking the box, and that's what you really want with your Chelsea defenders, I think, because they probably will concede in these matches, I think. So you want that attacking threat, don't you?
Yeah, when I've been talking to Zoph, he's been telling me that this is just a makeshift thing for 2 or 3 games because of the wingers that Chelsea were up against on that side, and it was a specific horses for courses thing. And we did see that when they were, we did see that yesterday. When they were chasing the game yesterday, James moved back to wing back, and from what I hear, he was really, really good in the last 30 minutes, and he was threatening. So Zoph, do you think he's worth the money over Reece James on for wildcarders, free hitters at the moment? Where do you stand?
I think Reece James is definitely the best pick, and he's still miles ahead of Alonso, in my opinion. I'd rather have one game of Reece James at wing back than Alonso 2. Because what has happened, I think Alonso got a lot more license because on that side, Aspi doesn't go as forward. So Alonso can afford to be a bit more attacking. Once James attacks, everything just goes to James. The ball gets sucked in towards him like a magnet. Once he gets forward, all the attacks go through him. So if you can afford him, I have very little faith in Alonso. I thought he was very poor yesterday. And the thing is, it's a bit of confirmation bias. You see him in the box and you go like, I want Alonso, but you don't notice the bad stuff he did. And as a manager, you notice more the bad stuff than the good stuff when it comes to a defender.
The problem is that the replacements for Alonso right now look bleak. I think that's where there is.
You can play Hudson-Odoi there, you can play Saul there, you can play Pulisic there. That's the thing about Tuchel. He has no problem putting square pegs in round holes.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think the worry is that after conceding so many goals, the reaction is that he will go for a defence-first approach, Tuchel, and maybe look to get somebody a bit more solid. And yeah, that's the concern, isn't it? Because if you go for Alonso this week and then he's dropped in the first game, you're in trouble then, aren't you, with it? And it's an immediate problem in your team. So I get why James is more appealing. And yeah, it's certainly not a decision I've made yet. But yeah, something to think about.
And minutes is also a thing because Alonso has played a lot of games now. He's played the FA Cup game. He's played the Arsenal game. Then you'd be playing West Ham United and Everton. You'd expect at least one rest over there. It doesn't make sense for him to play every game.
Also, as Baker rightly pointed out, also if James is playing at RCB, he's actually a bonus monster. So he's making up a little of his lack of attacking threat in the sheer bonus points that he's going to command in that position. So that's also something worth thinking about. Do you think it makes him more nailed and more secure for minutes?
Yes.
Because of the fact that he can play both positions?
Absolutely. Because let's say that Leeds game, for example, I think James could play centre back in that game and play that FA Cup final.
The issue is for the bonus thing is they need to keep a clean sheet, though, if he's going to be playing right centre back to get the bonus, isn't it? And that's the worry with Chelsea at the moment, that they're not going to get the clean sheets. So that's my kind of concern. But I do like the additional security of him being able to operate there as well as wing back. In this double, if he plays one game at centre back and one game at wing back, you're laughing, aren't you? Probably. So yeah, got pros and cons, hasn't it?
Yeah. Personally, I think it's James or bust. If you're not going for James, just avoid the Chelsea defense altogether.
Yeah.
You don't think Alonso is a worthy punt?
The problem is, I think it becomes a possible liability to your team to carry in such a period. If you want to go for defensive pick, then I would just get somebody from City. I see a Laporte, for example, outscoring Alonso till the end of the season, even with the extra fixture thrown in.
What if you're on free hits off?
On a free hit, then I would possibly look at Thiago Silva, because the set piece threat is massive from Thiago. He's a beast.
Fair enough. All right, fair enough. I personally think if you're on free hit, I have no comms going for Alonso, but I'm with you there, where I think I prefer Reece James to Alonso.
On a free hit, you ask me, I would
gi-
go triple attack. Mount, Havertz, Werner.
Yeah.
Don't even bother with the defense.
Yeah, look at the defense. Yeah.
That solves the dilemma of which two you go for, doesn't it? If you just go for all three. So,
100% on free hit, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind, triple attack. You've seen United defend. Not more needs to be said. So,
Right. Let's talk about the midfielders. There's a big debate, Kai versus Mount at the moment, in terms of everybody's looking to get in a Chelsea midfielder this week. Tom, who do you prefer at the moment?
it's really tough, this one, because Havertz having that rest, well, not a rest because he came on, didn't he? But not starting the game last night makes him more appealing, I think. I think in this new kind of system, he's maybe been creating space for others. Maybe he seemed to kind of roam to the right a bit more, and it was Mount kind of getting in more those kind of central positions, which you want your midfielder to be in. I think Mount is probably a bit more secure in his minutes as well. And would that be a fair assumption? So
yes, I agree.
Yeah, so that's really appealing as well. And if they have a system change or something, you still think that Mount is going to be a lock in that team. So it's a really tough one. And this is what I seem to be changing my mind every few hours on this one at the moment. Mount's currently in the draft, but it's that rest last night, or that hour-long rest for Havertz, which makes him appealing for this weekend. And people often say Mount isn't explosive, but I think this season he has kind of got those big returns in games, hasn't he? I don't really buy that. So, but Havertz, playing in that striker role, if he doesn't kind of roam too much and he is taking up some central kind of spots, then he's appealing, isn't he? Because he's a player in a game that can score 2 or 3. But yeah, it's a dilemma, and I think everybody's in that boat this week. If you had to pick one, Zoph, who would you go for?
For a short term, Havertz. Long term, Mount. And I'll just go into some reasoning. So just to provide some context for you guys in terms of the formation change. Earlier, Chelsea were playing a 3-4-3, but in that Southampton game, we switched to a 3-4-1-2 with Mount playing behind 2 strikers. I think the main thing to keep in mind over here that Reece James was not playing at wing back during any of those games. So perhaps that's why Havertz was drifting out. I noticed with James putting in those crosses yesterday, Havertz was able to occupy a lot more central positions. So if James is playing right centre back, Havertz immediately becomes a much better pick because that's his main target. It's not Werner is not going to be getting on the ends of crosses. Mount isn't. Kai provides the aerial threat in that case. So that would make Kai immediately a better option. What is alarming slightly is that prior to the Arsenal match, Tuchel had made a comment about Havertz's minutes. He said he's got a lot of minutes in his legs and that's why he was giving Lukaku a shot. So after Lukaku's performance last night, which was very poor, there's no doubt Kai is going to start at least the next 2 games. That is West Ham, and United away is sort of a big fixture. It's a marquee fixture. You'd expect a strong team there. But 2 days later against Everton away, I start to worry about Havertz because of what Tuchel has just said. He could play anybody. Even if he doesn't want to play Lukaku, he can play Pulisic in that position. It's not really that big of a downgrade. So if you bring in Havertz now, I think he's a great captain option, but he would probably be looking for an exit route as soon as game week 35.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, where I think if you're looking to hold a midfielder right until the end of the season, no doubt Mason Mount is the one to go for. And a lot of people have this, perception that Mount is a very dullard pick and he's going to trickle along. I'm with Tom on this one. He's had explosive hauls. He's on set pieces. He took the penalty right at the Kai took the penalty right at the end of the Club World Cup final, but my inkling is that Mount is higher up in
Mount
the
wasn't on the
hierarchy when it
pitch.
comes to penalty.
He was injured.
Yeah, exactly. Mount. Yeah. So my guess, and I think nobody knows for a fact who's on penalties if Jorginho is not on the pitch between Kai and Mount. My inkling is Mount is going to pull rank there. It's just a guess and a gut feel there. And he's just so confident. Every shot that he's taking, he's finding the corners of the net. That's how accurate and confident he's at the moment. So I think if you're looking at a short term, I think it's close between the two and you can make a case for either. But if you're looking to hold a transfer hold a Chelsea midfielder right until game week 38, you go for Mount. That's where I am. Because it depends on where you're planning to spend your transfers at the moment. If you you want to attack the City fixture or the Spurs fixture, if like me, you don't have Heung-min Son in 35 and you want Son in 35, I don't mind the idea of getting Havertz, captaining him in 34, and then getting Son in 35 and captaining Son in 35. I think that's a good route to do. But if you're looking to hold one midfielder and spend transfers elsewhere, you go out. That's where I am.
Captaincy is an interesting
think
one because Havertz's numbers have been crazy. I think in terms of big chances over the last 6 game weeks, he's up there along with Son. In terms of shots on target, shots in the box, the numbers are absolutely brilliant numbers. But the thing is that most of those numbers are prior to the change in system. So I don't know how much I can read into them. But in terms of captaincy, I still think a guy playing up top, I still feel Havertz has a bit more brace potential than Mount. Tom, you agree?
Yeah, I think so. Playing in that role anyway, where he's further up the pitch. Do you think? I mean, Kovacic being out seems like a bit of a blow for Chelsea, because Tuchel spoke about this new system, and I saw some quotes about it, and he was saying, Kai's up there with Timo, but then Mount and Kovacic are in support, and he spoke about them both supporting the attack together. And you take Kovacic out of that team, and if you've got Jorginho and Kante, neither of them can do what Kovacic does, can they, in terms of supporting the attack? Can Loftus-Cheek do it? Well, on last night's evidence, probably not so well. So then again, I started to think, well, you lose Kovacic from this system. Does then he look to change the system? He feels important to me. Would you agree with that? Or?
Absolutely. Kovacic is probably our best central midfielder this season.
Yeah.
And also, you think that he'd want to experiment now, because he needs to find his best team before the FA Cup final. So there might be a little bit of experimentation happening there as well, which is actually good for your first choice players on paper as well, because they're going to be sticking in the team. It's just about the shape then.
Spot on.
And I guess the dilemma for most people on a free will be whether you go for that double Chelsea midfield or you introduce Werner as alongside a midfielder, and that's another big choice for people to make, isn't it?
So do we segue into Werner, LR?
Yeah, he's the best Chelsea attacker there is. There's nobody else you should get. He's got 7 returns in the last 4 or 5 games, and that's despite hitting both the post as well as the crossbar. I just think if you're looking for somebody explosive, I think Werner's the one to go for, because he's capable of 2 or 3 returns in one game. Because we've known that he's not a good finisher, but he's a magnet when it comes to just getting the chances in the team, and he's quite a good creator as well. So if you have an easy route to him, I have no comms going for Timo. I'm 99% going to get him.
Yeah. So the thing with Timo is I like the United game a lot more, because I think being at home, you guys are going to try to attack a little bit and Timo can terrorize that side. But like you saw against Arsenal, he wasn't getting into central positions as much as I'd like. He was sort of drifting wide, creating space and all that stuff. So if you have space to run behind, as you always know, Timo is a little bit good, but he sort of felt like the creator yesterday. Even though I know he scored a goal, but that was a massive deflection. We shouldn't really read too much into that. He does feel a bit more of a creator to me. And small caveat, he's played a lot of minutes. He's played Southampton, Madrid, Palace, Arsenal. Now you expect him to play the next few games also. You never know. That's my only concern.
Do you think he plays majority of the games until the end of the season? That's my question, because if I'm getting Timo in, I'm looking to hold him until 38.
Yep. He should, because the advantage with him is, unlike Havertz, he hasn't got any minutes in his legs and he's playing really well beyond output. He had a really beautiful dribble also in midfield yesterday. So this is probably his best spell. If you're going to put him in the shop window and in general, get him going for next season, you have to play him during these games. But that being said, I think Pulisic is probably the only natural replacement for him, the pacey guy on the left side who can make those runs in behind. And Pulisic also, I don't see him being a perma bench now for the rest of the season.
There will be some rotation, but I think that applies to literally every asset except for maybe Mason Mount, who's probably going to be least prone to that rotation.
Least prone, but even him is obviously cannot be completely, because you have Ziyech, who can play a sort of that similar number 10 role, probably not as effectively, but there is an alternative there.
Just thinking about it, because you mentioned the matchups now, if you're thinking about the West Ham game, West Ham are going to be sitting, which is, the way I sort of see the game playing is that Kai is going to be sitting centrally between 2 defenders and people are going to be crossing. Maybe that game sort of favors Mount in terms of matchups, because he'll probably get more of the ball and he'll be probably doing a little bit of shooting from the outside, creating chances from outside the box. What do you think?
Yeah, and Havertz also, because remember the goal he scored against Newcastle. Just like, the headers, the crosses, all of Reece James' crosses are going to be targeted towards him. Mount's crosses, a lot of set pieces. With Rudiger out, he becomes probably our biggest aerial threat besides Thiago Silva. So I do like the West Ham game a bit more. For Havertz, the United game, I like more for Werner. But if you had asked me to pick one, because of the rest yesterday, I would say Kai.
Fair enough. So your preferred top 3 Chelsea assets is a seat Mount, Havertz, and James.
Probably in that Mount and Havertz you could interchange depending on the length of time you're looking to hold them. But yes, no doubt in my mind, those 3.
Tom, where do you stand?
I'm currently, the draft I sent over to you guys to have a look at earlier had Alonso, Mount and Werner in, but that's by no means a definite yet. Havertz is kind of appealing to me. I do agree with what you said there. The West Ham game feels like more of a Mount Havertz kind of matchup, and the United one definitely feels like a Werner one. So there's still a lot to kind of unpack with all of that before I come to a final decision. But yeah, Havertz after that rest last night, it's appealing now, more appealing than what it was 24 hours ago.
Because if Lukaku had put in a 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, then you start worrying.
Yeah.
He gives Lukaku some more minutes, but Lukaku was absolutely disastrous yesterday.
Yeah.
Right. That's can we move on from Chelsea now? Anybody?
I think so. We can probably come back in the Q&A and all that stuff later. Let's talk Man City.
Cool. Let's talk Man City.
Where are you on Man City, LR? You're all about that Pep chasing.
Yeah, it feels weird because I currently only have Cancelo, and a friend Bullet actually put out a very relevant tweet. It's kind of frustrating that because of the Chelsea double, I'm tunneled into thinking about the Chelsea assets at the moment, because when you see Man City against Watford at home, 10 out of 10 times I have 1 or 2 City attackers at least. And that's one of the reasons why I'm tempted for the free hit also, because I'll just bring up that discussion here right now, because the thinking is that, let's say, the double for Man City does fall in game week 36. Now in game week 36, when you're looking at getting in 3 City assets over 2 weeks, you're probably going to say Cancelo, KDB +1. And whatever assets you get, they're probably going to get guaranteed 1 start. It's not the situation like how it is in 34, where you can see that Raheem Sterling is rested in the previous game and he's odds on to start the home game against Watford, and he's a huge differential. I kind of like that more, where you can predict who's going to be starting the game, or attempt to predict, and get these huge differentials for a single game haul. So that's one of the things that's in my head when I'm thinking about City assets. But if I'm looking to do the transfers, I am the only one I can afford is Phil Foden. And I am not sure Foden starts in this game against Watford at home. So I am like, do I want to spend a transfer going there? I think the safest picks that you have for this week, especially for City, are De Bruyne and Raheem Sterling. They look like very enticing assets, especially for this week. And if you're looking at long-term, Phil Foden's the one, but he might not be playing this week. So that's where I am. I almost think if you guys are on Wildcard, it just might be I don't know if it's the better play, but it might be the sensible thing to just get 2 City defenders and roll with 1 attacker. That's what the thinking.
I just wanted to provide some context on City's schedule. Now, they played yesterday, that is the 20th against Brighton. They play on the 23rd against Watford, and then they play on the 24th against Real Madrid. So that's effectively 3 games in the space of 6 days. The spacing between the Madrid ties is actually quite good when they play Leeds. They have 3 days in between. So they play Madrid on the 20th. They play, I think, Leeds on Madrid on the 26th, Leeds on the 30th, then the second leg on the 4th, and there's also then 4 days after the Newcastle tie. So that period, the congestion is not that bad. This is the congested period. So we can expect some rotation from the lineup that we saw yesterday.
And I think Foden's nailed on for the Champions League games just because of what he offers in terms of pressing. So that's where I am in terms of City. I wish I could just get Raheem Sterling. I'm also looking at a way in which I can get Sterling this week and segue into Son next week. I think that's a good shift of moves as well, because I think there's enough upside with both moves. You guys are on Wildcard. Tom, any City players on your Wildcard draft at the moment?
Yeah, Sterling is currently in after what we saw last night. Massive differential. Given where I am in the ranks, this feels like too good an opportunity to pass up for this week. And then, yeah, I mean, with Sterling, if he weren't to start in the Champions League, then you might be able to get a couple of weeks out of him, possibly. But there's so many, when you're spending that much, you can literally go to anybody, can't you? So if you want to then move into a Son or something like that after that, then it's quite a good position to be able to move players around in. I like Foden as well, but he does feel a bit overloaded, doesn't he? Played a lot of minutes recently. I think he was benched in one of the Atletico games, but came on as a sub in that one. He's been playing a lot of minutes. He's at an age where you can do that, but you've got to think, like you say, he's in their best 11, isn't he? So the Champions League game, you would expect him to start both of those legs. But I think on a wild card, I don't mind picking Foden because he might be benched this week, but then you're gonna get plenty of minutes out of him in the running, aren't you? And he's probably my favoured kind of mid-price City midfielder. So I like him. I love De Bruyne, but it's just a structure thing, a price point thing. It's difficult to get him in, but there's loads of upside there. He's so central to everything they do, isn't he? So involved. I wish I could reach him as well, but you want Salah in there as well. It's difficult. And Cancelo as well. I want to get him back in. He looks pretty nailed on this weekend, doesn't he, with the Champions League ban? I think there's injuries to Walker and Stones as well, so there's literally nobody else to play at right back. So yeah, I've got three on my wild card at the moment: Cancelo, Foden, and Sterling.
Cancelo for me.
Zoph, what about you? I've seen.
Yeah, Cancelo's been a lock because I've had him for a long time and I've kept him for this entire period. Now I'm definitely going double defense. Whether that's going to be Edison or Laporte remains to be seen. I like the idea of Laporte because yesterday we saw that Stones was having some injury problems. Ake limped off and Laporte got his rest already in the FA Cup game. So I think he's going to play every game now to the end of the season. The thing is with City, these games, they steamroll, they get a lot of set pieces. And I think from more than Diaz, I think Laporte has been the main threat from set pieces. So he is capable of that double digit also in any of these fixtures.
I like that. I like Laporte as a pick a lot. I think it's sensible because it's so difficult to get a City midfielder except for De Bruyne that's going to be consistent until the end of the season. I'd probably say Sterling is worth a punt in that price bracket, and Foden is still going to play majority of the games. So yeah, that's where I am. I wouldn't, as explosive as he is, I wouldn't touch a Mahrez at the moment, and Gabriel Jesus and Grealish
De
are non
Bruyne,
options. So
if you need to make up ground, it has to be De Bruyne. He was absolutely majestic yesterday. 5 chances created, came close to scoring. If you're looking to make up ground, and I think like you, Tom, I think a KDB captain shout, let's say in the next few game weeks, you probably have to go against Salah, right, in a few weeks going forward. Something like a KDB captain.
Could work. That could work with the Sterling pick though. So you get Sterling this week, and then it's an easy switch, isn't it? Once Sterling's minutes are more in question. Admittedly, it's booking in a transfer, but I just think that upside of Sterling this week. You'd expect De Bruyne to start this week, I think, wouldn't you?
Yes,
I expect him to anyway, but whether or not it's managed minutes or not, I don't know. So yeah, I think that's another thing to think about, isn't it? And it's just something which you've got to consider with a wild card, because I'm talking about switches there. I'm talking about transitioning maybe one or two Chelsea players out before 36. I've just got to be careful that I haven't got too much of these plans in mind.
I think you should take hits, Tom. You have to be aggressive. I think you can take hits. Just sell those guys next week. If you take a hit every week in the next few weeks, I think you can afford to. At this stage, you have to be aggressive. And if you're going to go up, it has to be Man City. Because I've read more and more publications is that this game particularly is a GD game. Now, Liverpool have actually upped their goal difference by beating United 4, and City have scored against Brighton. So City actually falling behind in terms of goal difference. And this is something we mentioned earlier also. There was a quote from Guardiola that he wants to get that goal difference up. Watford seems to me like bang on that GD game.
Yeah. And also it's effective ownership, right? I mean, last I checked, in the top 10K, except for Cancelo, every other City asset was under 10%. And what's happened is because of the Chelsea double, everybody's going to be distracted. Nobody's going to be buying those City assets, which are huge differentials in the game with the best upside at the moment. So you go, I mean, wildcarders need to be looking at one or two City attackers at least. They need to be going there.
Agree.
Yeah, and I think you do that, Tom. You know, you need to earmark the games that you want to target for potential braces and hat tricks. I think
exactly. Yeah,
being in a position with just 5 game weeks left, you just find those 5 or 6 games that you want to target and play around with transfers aggressively there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I can remember we had a chat around, I think it was game week 31, wasn't it? And I was kind of turning and froing on a wild card there. And I think your pick at the time, Ella, was De Bruyne, and you said get him in because it's that ultimate differential. And that's still the case now, isn't it? Even after all of these performances and these big hauls he's been getting, he's still a massive differential in the game. And yeah, if you're going to back anybody with the captaincy away from Salah after this week anyway, and it looks like De Bruyne is going to get those minutes. He's probably one of the best rivals, isn't he, for the armband?
Yeah. I think, though, you need to have a plan for Spurs because of the lack of Europe and because of Leicester's game being sandwiched between both the European ties. In my head, there's no doubt that Spurs are the best captaincy option in 35. So I don't think you look at 35 as a captaincy option. It's clear in my head that Spurs are the best captaincy option 35 because of how
that's because Leicester are in Europe either side, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But
no, it is appealing.
In 36, you could, if City's doubles falls in 36, that's going to be most likely Newcastle at home and Wolves away. You can back against Salah, who has, I think, Villa away and Tottenham.
Yeah.
Things like that.
So if you were gonna do that, would you get Salah in this week? If you're you're not gonna captain Salah this week. You're probably going to look at, you said there, Spurs with that Leicester tie, and then you're not going to captain him in my position. I'm not saying that as if you're in your rank, but if you're in my position, do you then say, well, look, we've got a few weeks to play. There's no, you're not going to get anything by having Salah in and not captaining him because the effective ownership will make it. So do you back against it? That's scary after watching him the other night as a non-owner. But it's just those kind of moves which I'm thinking about now.
I'd still do it, Tom. I would get Son for these 2 weeks and change Son possibly in 36 because Son's double in 36 isn't that great.
Yeah, it's not great. Yeah.
I'd roll the dice too.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
say. And if you don't get Salah, you'll see from a draft, if you were to turn Salah into a Son and you get £2 million saving.
This goes a long way.
And then that gets interesting other places then. So it's bulking out the squad.
Yeah. Because if you do go Liverpool, go Mane. You have to take this. You have to go against the grain. And if you want to go Liverpool, I'd say go Mane. He's playing that central position. He looks very sharp.
Yeah.
You're not going to make any gains with Salah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting. So it feels like I've got to go for it.
I think you take a considered opinion based on Klopp's presser this week because what he said in terms of the quotes after the United game were that Mane and Salah are tired and he does need to rotate a little bit. And somebody like a Jota, I think, is nailed on to play that Everton home game as well. Yeah. So if you're looking at that price point as well, so it's based on finding a right permutation there.
Good. Let's segue into Liverpool.
You could have a lot of fun on a free hit this week, couldn't you? Just our whole conversation now is about more like 1 week punts rather than longer term. Your Jotas, your Sterlings, that kind of thing. So you could build a really interesting free hit, I think.
Yeah, Jota, Sterling, Kai. Those would be the first 3 names on my free hit without a doubt.
What differentials as well.
I'm disappointed. I thought Timo would be the best.
In midfield.
Okay.
Timo is a good pick for the end of the season. He's not a punt. He's a sure thing.
I wanted to talk about Liverpool and Klopp's comment regarding rotation, and I found that a little bit strange because I think what he's leaning towards is now they had made a request to have the fixture at Newcastle delayed. So the thing what happens in the Champions League is one team always has an 8-day turnaround and one team always has a 6-day turnaround. The guys who play on Wednesday, Tuesday completely get shafted in the league game. So now Liverpool play Villarreal on Wednesday and they play Newcastle in the 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. And from what I hear, that request to postpone it to the evening has been rejected. So that possibly is what he's hinting to. He sort of wants to save the workload at that time. But they have 4 days now between United. They played United on Tuesday and they play Everton on Sunday. So in terms of fatigue there, I don't see why he has any reason to rest. There's been a lot of discussion about Tsimikas might play, Trent might be rested, Salah might be rested. It's still a Merseyside derby. I don't think so.
That 4-day rest has me worried about you not getting Tom. I'm not getting Salah, Tom. I'm not going to be lying there. Right. I mean, he looks odds on to start that game.
I mean, if Tom was even around 50-60K, then I wouldn't suggest it. But then, you're trying to break into you're around 180K. Sorry, Tom, to mention that, but trying to break back into.
I'd take that. I'm lower than that after last night, so we'll go with 180. No, I mean it's been disastrous, and I'll talk about it a bit when we touch on wildcard drafts and stuff. But yeah, I think that's exactly right what you're saying. if we were here and I was where I was originally a few weeks ago and I was 40, 50, 60k, that's different to where I am now, isn't it? And the decisions you take, because it doesn't make much difference to me whether I finish. I've got to try and get back in the top 100k now. It's not, it's all or nothing really. It doesn't matter to me if I finish 200k or 400k really.
Yeah. Still, Tom, I wouldn't let go of Salah because I was in the same position as you last season. I spent in a much worse position. Never mind same. I spent most part of last season outside the top 1 million last year. And what happened is that these big bets where you're making against sure things like Salah, where it's going to be a big surprise if he doesn't get a double return in a home game against Everton. We're expecting him to start. Yeah. I think you have 10 other spots too. And enough upside and potential in other picks. And I think there's enough time to still make ground to make this bet against Mo at the moment. That's where I am.
Yeah, and I think you need to get things in perspective. I think I'm about 50-ish points back off the top 100k now. And that isn't, when I've got 3 chips still to play, wildcard, bench boost, free hurt. Yeah, when you break it down like that, maybe you don't need to go full tilt, do you, and kind of just go crazy with differentials. Sterling could get you 15 of those points back this week if he starts. So it's all about balancing that risk, isn't it, and not leaving yourself open to just get a Salah brace would just kill me again.
And I'd wager both of y'all are at least 4 or 5 points up on everybody else anyway at the start of the week, just being on wildcard.
Because no hits.
Yeah, no hits. Cool. Let's move into. You want to talk about Liverpool assets?
Yes. In terms of the defense, I wanted to ask, because currently I've gone with the double up, Robertson and Trent. Do you think that's worth the money, Tom?
Yes, I do. I think Robertson's returns are just absolutely unreal over quite a long period, aren't they? You look at it and he's just every game. He's just delivering a clean sheet, an assist, a goal, or bonus, one of them. I've gone for the kind of the budget alternative with Trent and Matip in mind. And my wildcard Matip, there are a few minutes concerns with Konate. He might get the occasional rest, but he feels very much first choice Matip. Konate started in the UCL, I think, as well, didn't he? I think Matip has started the last 17 games he's been available for. The only couple that he's missed have been through illness in the Premier League, that is. He's also got a bit of attacking threat, hasn't he? He does. He brings the ball well out of defence. He advances up the pitch. Most of it is from set pieces. But I can't afford Trent and Robertson, but I do think they're great options. So I've gone for Matip. But that is the one spot in the defence. 4 are locked, and that is the one spot which I'm still mulling it over. So I could be swayed onto another option.
I'd been championing Matip for a long time. The past 4 or 5 episodes, I've been like, he's a good option if you're looking to save points. In addition to what you said, he's also great on bonus points. The problem is Konate's form in the last 3 or 4 games, where he's looked really good in the Champions League. So I'm a little worried about them sharing minutes, and I just wouldn't go there. I'm a little worried. I'm not as sure about Matip as I was maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, just because of how well Konate has done. So that's where I am. It's just a problem I wouldn't want to tackle, especially because you will be wanting to spend your transfers on these big hitting switches where you're targeting the fixtures you aren't, right? Where you want to, right? So in positions where you don't want to move your players, especially in defense, at that same price point or a similar price point, I'd much rather go a Laporte over a Matip, who I think is more assured of minutes. So that's fair.
Yeah, I was about to say that. That does mean losing a second City attacker for this week, but it might be something I look at to go Laporte and then Cancelo and just Sterling in midfield. So that's another option, and something I will consider.
Also, in my head, City are a better bet for clean sheets than Liverpool.
Yes.
So, always have been, always will be. So that's also another fact.
Liverpool rely on Alisson. They rely on Alisson a lot. Any other picks to discuss in Liverpool midfield? I think everybody else feels quite punty.
No, Mane.
Besides Mane, I think we touched upon Mane already. I'm talking about Diaz or Jota.
Jota feels good this week, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But then longer term, again, if I'm on a wild card and I go Jota, then again, that feels like a transfer which would need to be made. That doesn't necessarily have to be an issue if you've got a mid-price midfielder in mind, but it's just another transfer. But there's he starts this week, you would back him to get something, wouldn't you? I mean, Everton have got the worst away record in the division, haven't they? So I don't dislike that, but
I'd go there on a free hit for sure.
Yeah. Diaz looks excellent as well, but just which games is he going to start? He feels like first choice now, does he start against Villarreal? Mane's form, just going back to it though, a lot of that has coincided with him playing centre forward, hasn't it?
Yes.
I think he's got eight returns in his last 8 or something like that. So, and he looks really good there as well.
Yeah. Just a shout out, Zoph, we have Bakar in the chat. Bakar, this is just a message for you. Until we receive a certain video with you dancing, you're not allowed back on here. That's why he's not here. It's Ramadan and fasting is just an excuse. It's just because we've set ground rules here and Bakar hasn't set us a video. So until he does, he's not coming back on. Got it.
Right. I think we skipped your team, who also have a double this week. I don't think there's much to talk about, but your quick take on United. Hold, sell.
Sell for Chelsea and City assets.
Even if you have Bruno, move him on.
Move him on. I think because Bruno's expensive, and I think I like the single game. I like Sterling over Bruno this week, for example, even if Bruno has a double. I just don't think he's a good hold. I don't know what is happening at the club. You move on. That's what I'm going to be doing with Ronaldo as well, in all likelihood, because there are teams to target in Chelsea and City who you're going to set up with for the future as well, right? So I don't mind that.
Good. Let's not spend more time there. Leicester. So, you're saying, Alar, something?
Yeah, I think while we have Tom here, a team I do want to discuss is Aston Villa.
Sure.
Because they're very interesting in terms of somebody looking at differential midfielders, etc. as well. Because I'm just reading the fixtures here. They play Leicester before the European tie at the moment. After that, they have Norwich at home. And after that, 2 doubles. And I think they're going to be looking much better than they have in the past, because I am big on the fact that Nakamba is vital to their balance. And I've been saying that to everybody. And I think they're going to be underlooked a little. And I think if you're set on a free hit in 36, I would consider a Coutinho or a Cash in my team at the moment. Where are you on that, Tom?
Yeah, well, we're just very inconsistent under Gerrard. We can be brilliant, as we were against Southampton when we blew them away 4-0, and we tend to go on these little runs of 2 or 3 games of doing very well, and then it just goes completely off a cliff, and then we have 3 or 4 games of being terrible, and we're on that run at the moment. We've lost 4 in a row, I think it is. But then even in that Spurs game when we lost 4-0, the first half was actually really encouraging. Aggression was kind of borderline, but it was an all-round. We created a lot of openings in that first half. I didn't captain Kane or Son in that game week because I saw the game going. I thought we would turn up for it, and I went in at half time, and I thought, yeah, we're doing really well here. But the problem is, if you don't take one of those chances, it's then very difficult because you put more men forward and Son and Kane will just break you on the counter, won't they? But now I'm thinking this kind of rest period for us has hopefully kind of brought the team together. Gerrard's hopefully had a bit of time on the training pitch, and the fixtures are very good for us now. We've got Norwich after Leicester, and then there's the back-to-back doubles as well. Coutinho blows hot and cold, but the Norwich fixture, I think that feels like a good one for him. And then we've got Burnley as well. So I'm not against a punt on Coutinho at all. And I think Watkins as well. I mean, there's a lack of really appealing forwards around at the moment. So I think he comes into the conversation. I think he's scored 8 goals so far this season, which is a little bit underwhelming. I think the thing with Watkins is a lot of chances go begging with Watkins, don't they? He puts himself in some great positions. His movement is very good. I do think he's on the wrong end of some. He gets a bit unlucky at times. He's hit the woodwork a heck of a lot over the past couple of seasons. But I would be tempted to have a roll of the dice with him as well. If I was going to go for Werner this week, I've kind of thought, well, if it doesn't feel like Werner's a long-term holder, transitioning from him to Watkins in 35 or 36 could work. And I think we'll probably see us a bit of a reaction over the next couple of games. I think we'll do okay.
Yeah, I don't see Villa being a beach team under Gerrard. I think you're pretty much going to be going for the end of the
Don't let
season.
it
My
happen.
only caveats with Villa would be the 36 double. I don't think it's that great. Burnley away, Liverpool at home. But
No.
we remember what happened at Liverpool at home. I think that's 7-3. So anything can happen over there. And the game week 38 is away to Man City. So I think if you're like possibly
you've
going
got
to
to
free hit
consider
in
that.
37, then you should possibly like wait for Villa investment. But if you like you said, if you
That's-
don't have a free
yeah.
hit to play, you just play them with the 36,
Yeah.
37 in mind.
And
That's-
Utkarsh, if you're
that's-
free hitting in 36, they're a good buy now. That's what the thinking is. If you're free hitting for sure in
Yeah.
36, I like 34, 35, and 37 for them.
Correct. But
That's
then
why I'm
38,
holding off a bit.
38 you need to worry if you go too heavy.
Yeah, because I looked at Cash as well as another option. He's been probably our best player under Gerrard. Luca Dean, he was ruled out for a while, but quite a few training pictures recently suggest it wasn't as bad as first thought. And he put some kind of Villa Park soon message on his Insta, which suggests that he might still feature. But out of the two, I think Cash has been playing so well under Gerrard. I'd be tempted to go for him out of the defenders, but because I'm free hitting in 37, I don't think I need to make that decision. And by the time we get to 37 as well, we might know what's happening with Ings as well. Are they going to continue as a pair with Watkins? Because that might be something else that you kind of look at, given that Ings will probably be on pens. So, but yeah, Coutinho as well I like, but he is hot and cold.
Move on.
Cool. Yeah, just while I think we'll move on to the wildcard drafts after this. But before we move on, I just want to ask a question for people who are looking to sell players at the moment. And I think a lot of people own Barnes, Kulusevski, Saka. And you need to get rid of these players if you want to get your Chelsea City midfielders or Coutinho in your team. Who would you get rid of first?
Tom?
So what are the options? Saka, Kulusevski, and the Leicester midfielders.
Yeah, then the Leicester midfielders. Yeah.
Leicester midfielders probably. I think Saka. He's looked good the last two. I mean, he was a late return last night, wasn't it? I mean, as a Martinelli owner, I saw the penalty. I was coming on the train back from London, and it was like penalty, and I was like, Martinelli's got it. This is going to turn out okay. And then it was like, hold on a minute. But now, I mean, Lacazette probably. I don't think he'll be a certain starter now for the rest of the season. So is Saka going to take on penalties now? Because if he is, that boosts him even more. He was unfortunate not to score against Southampton, wasn't he? Again, from that Martinelli pass. So I think Saka's a hold now, a definite hold for me. Then Kulusevski somewhere in the middle, I think. But I would probably sell the Leicester midfielders, I think.
I'd agree with that order. That's where I am as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Saka would not be a sell for me at all. I think yesterday's result is big for Arsenal in terms of motivation, in terms of general vibe. And I think let's talk a little bit about Arsenal. They're quite relevant because I think they have a
and
good
they
fixture.
face United next.
Better you say it than me.
Our defense is a joke at the moment. I don't know what we're going to do.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Let's talk Nketiah.
Everybody's talking about dissing. Just wanted to add, actually, let me get a little bit of United out of my system. Everybody's dissing Fred and McTominay. We don't function as a team without them. As simple as that.
Spot on. And McTominay was on the bench the other night, wasn't he? Yeah. But Fred is, and they're probably not going to feature this weekend, I presume.
So we'll know more on Friday. That's all. Just wanted to say. So that might have an influence there as well.
Right. I think Arsenal, there's a bit more to unpack before we move towards the wild cards. I think Nketiah now emerges as a great option, especially for those looking to bench boost in 36. One of the main reasons I used my bench boost in 33 is because I couldn't see forward options at double in 36 around that price. Tom, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, he's in the draft. I was like you. I mean, forwards has been a real struggle, hasn't it? To find somebody. I was never keen on Mateta just because the landscape at Palace in the forward position just changes so quickly, doesn't it? We had it with Edouard earlier this year, and then with Mateta. And even when he was playing well and scoring, he was often getting hooked at 60, 70 minutes. And it never felt secure because if that player comes on and impresses, whether it's Benteke or it's Edouard, then he's not in the team the next week. So been looking for somebody. And Nketiah, Lacazette is probably still going to feature a bit, but the comments from Arteta last night about him, I think he said something that he'd been unfair with Nketiah and not giving him I think that bodes really well. And I think a couple of goals at Stamford Bridge is going to do a lot for his confidence. So it feels like if he gets one of those double game week, because that's what he's in there for, is for the bench boost. If he gets one of those double game week games and then gets, say, 20 minutes off the bench in the other, it's probably enough for that. Having an Arsenal attacker for that money is going to be pretty good, I think. I've got doubts about it, but I think given the position I'm in and the lack of alternatives around that price point, I think Nketiah feels like quite a good pick.
Also, if you had to wager, I'd reckon he plays the Leeds game and not the Spurs game, if he's going to play just one.
Yeah.
Because of the mobility required. Yeah, which is the way you want.
I reckon he's going to play United also, because I think you can't drop him after what he's done last night.
And it feels like you want to play him as well. I mean, the 5 point that slot in your team, it feels like you benched them until a double game week. But you're probably going to want to play Eddie this week if you bring him in, aren't you, for that United game?
I'd play him over Pukki. Like, a lot of guys are looking at Pukki against Newcastle. I'd easily play Nketiah against United.
Yeah, I'm in the same spot. Yeah, so interesting.
That segues nicely into the bench boost chat, Tom, because you're on Wildcard and you have a bench boost pending, and a lot of people are debating whether they should be bench boosting in 36 or 37. Where are you at?
36 made more sense for the draft that I've built, presuming City drops into to 36, which I think it will, given Pep's quotes last night. And the free hit, I'm not totally sold on 37, because a lot of the teams which we're going to be investing in, Villa, Palace, who else is there? Everton, who and Leicester, who double in 37. Not the kind of teams that you have a lot of confidence in, are they? Especially Palace recently. But yeah, I'm working towards the bench boost 36. I like players like Dewsbury Hall and things like that. Good cheap options on the bench who have got really good. I think it's 2 home fixtures for Leicester in 36, so I like that. And Nketiah doubling as well. I've got Emerson Royal in my draft as well. So albeit it's not a great double, but it is a double. It works with my goalkeeper combo of Schmeichel and Foster, so it made sense for my team to go for a 36 bench boost, and then probably free hit 37, but push it back a week to 38 if I don't feel comfortable at the time with that.
Tom, just one comment, because you mentioned the guys on the bench. I'd go Ben Davies over Emerson Royal for sure, especially because you're looking to bench boost that position. Because I'm not sure. I mean, Baker, who's a Spurs fan and has above average FPL, but he thinks actually that there's a chance Kulu moves to wing back position, and they either get Skip in or Moura in. So we don't know what's going to happen with the wing backs in that position, and Davies is nailed in that back three. So
I did look at it. The thing is, though, is that if you look at, which you guys know, you look at the stats of the wing backs at Spurs, and they dominate that kind of sub 6 million defender since Conte came in. It's Reguilon, and you kind of get swayed by that. And you look at Royal, and Kulusevski could move back, couldn't he? Lucas Moura could play there as well. He could play as a right wing back, couldn't he? Yeah. But I'm looking at this fixture against Brentford, and Brentford down that left side, they give up a lot of crosses. Now Royal can't really cross, but if he did on the day decide to be able to cross, if he had a good game, I think this is a good one for him. But I do get that Davies is more secure on the left of that back three, isn't he? So yeah, it's a decision to make, and if I was needing that little bit of extra, I could look at it. But yeah, it's something to think about.
I'm on board with that.
Davies, yes. Yeah. So just for the security thing, in case they do make a switch, yeah.
But your sub, and also, guys, I don't know. Mess around with your sub guys. If you're going to start him every week, you could possibly make an argument. I don't know if that's your setup, but I would look at them more as your sub guys, and you want reliable, secure starters.
Yeah. No, I get that.
And also, I think it comes down to when you're building your draft, because I'm surprised you said you're bench boosting in 36, because in my head the bench options look better in 37. Where Everton have 2 strong home games, that's Brentford at home and Palace at home, and Villa have 2 strong home games themselves, which is Palace and Burnley. I quite like the cluster of fixtures for Villa and Newcastle. Do you have Villa and Palace? Do you have a free hit as well, or just the bench boost left?
Yeah,
he does have a free.
Yeah, so I have the free hit as well. I tell you, I looked at Dewsbury Hall's fixtures, who I wanted in, and they're better in 36 than 37. Nketiah as the third striker has the double in 36, 37. Admittedly, I think they play, is it Newcastle away? So it's not a terrible fixture, but it's better to, obviously, you're more assured of getting one start, aren't you, with somebody like Nketiah. So that's the way I kind of approached it. And I was thinking of Emerson Royale as well, and he obviously doubles then. So, and Schmeichel and Foster as well as the pairing, that makes sense. They both double. And then free hitting in 37 was my kind of thought, when I can see a bit more of Villa and teams like, and Palace as well. Palace have got some really good options, haven't they? I like Zaha, for instance, but the past couple of performances have got me a little bit worried about that. So by free hitting, then it gives us a bit more time to kind of see where they're at, I suppose. I'm not totally against people doing it the other way around. It just seemed to work better for my squad.
Yeah, I agree, because if I'm really thinking about it, the bench assets that are appealing from Everton Villa, we're looking at Ramsey and Gordon at the moment, right? Now, you're not going to spend two positions on 4.5 million midfielders when there's a flurry of good midfielders available everywhere. So that, I think that might be what might make it difficult in terms of deciding where to bench boost. Zoph, were you on instinctively if you had to build a draft?
It's very, very difficult to build a bench boost 36 draft, but I do agree with Tom in that sense. You have your Dewsbury Hall, you have your Nketiah. I don't necessarily like Emerson Royal. You could probably look somewhere else, maybe even look at Arsenal, maybe look at a cheapie somewhere else, maybe Leicester again. Just wager that they go out of the Europa Conference and they play like a Fofana. I don't mind a 4.3. If you're looking to bench boost, I like him over Emerson Royal. The problem is the security of starts leading up to that. You might not get starts in 34, 35, but I think you will get starts in 36, 37, 38.
That might not be a problem though, because you're probably going to bench them, aren't you? Not those weeks. So I will admit that those that kind of Matip, Emerson, they're the two in that back line which it could change. So.
I want to
because I was having a chat with Zoph.
Sorry, go ahead, Ella.
Yeah, because you finish the Leicester conversation, then we'll move to your wildcard and have that.
Yeah, because I want to touch upon Leicester in terms of their wildcard assets now. I don't think any of the attackers, Maddison, Barnes, etc., can really be looked at. But I think Dewsbury Hall is worth looking at in terms of, like Tom mentioned, a 4.4. But I want to have a bit more of a discussion on goalkeepers. It seems that Schmeichel seems to be the auto-pick goalkeeper on wildcard for the community, but I don't think he's necessarily the best option if you have a free hit. And that is because ultimately, what do Leicester have to play for in the league? Absolutely nothing. Ultimately, what the Leicester defense is still a poor defense, and you don't see the strong team playing against necessarily Villa. The strong team will definitely not play against Tottenham. If they go through against Roma, then you might see rotation against Everton, Watford, and all that stuff. And let's say they do go out. And if they do go out, what do they have to play for? Nothing. They might be open. You might see free-flowing games. So after yesterday's result, I think somebody like Ramsdale is a better pick than Schmeichel, because Arsenal have something to play for, and they're likely, let's say they even go out of 4th, even 5th or 6th. Europa League is also something to play for. Till game week 38, they will be fighting for something. And Ramsdale has a high ceiling. We know this. Even by making one save, he can easily get 2 bonus, 3 bonus. So where are you guys on this Ramsdale versus Schmeichel thing?
Well, I went with Schmeichel in the draft, and it is, rather than being confident in Leicester, are frustrating to own people who have had Schmeichel. I mean, I know he got the penalty save, but that ain't going to happen every week. And they generally concede a goal or two, don't they? But it was more the fixtures which lured me in, and pairing him with Foster, because it gives you Villa, Burnley. It gives you 2 appealing sets of doubles in 36. And then I can't remember the last go. Oh yeah, then free hit, and then it would be Southampton on the final day of the season. So it's more about the fixtures than having any real confidence in Schmeichel, I think. And that was kind of why I looked at it. And Arsenal, after last night, they look more appealing, don't they, than what they had done. I mean, I thought they played well at Southampton, so I wasn't one of these managers who said, "Oh, sell all your Arsenal assets." But there had been a bit of a slump prior to that part. You know, you lose Tierney and you lose Partey, and that's a key part of their kind of defensive structure, especially Partey, isn't it? But now maybe they're switching to this. I mean, again, we didn't say with Saka, I mean, earlier, but he was a wing back, wasn't he? Last night he was playing right wing back in that, but it didn't seem to affect him too much. But maybe having that extra defender holding in there will give them a bit more solidity now.
Exactly.
What about if you're free hitting in 36? Somebody like a Martinez or Guaita would appeal as well. I mean, going for Guaita gives you Leeds home.
Guaita, I like.
Southampton.
If you're going to free it in 36, really like, because again, the 38 fixture is very good for Guaita. I think United at home last day of the season. It's a good season again. Guaita. I was actually being serious. I was being serious in that extent. I do think it's a good fixture. So they kept Arsenal out. He can get bonus over there. So I like him more so than Martinez.
Yeah,
it's just the two home games.
Season.
Yeah, the two home games.
Sorry.
This is the two home games in 37 which are appealing to me. That's all.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to do that, I think I would probably say cash over somebody like Martinez, though, because Martinez has been he's been he's had a mixed season. He hasn't been great. I mean, he's let in some goals which he shouldn't have. You know, I think last year he was on that kind of run where he was a bit fortunate to get so many double-digit hauls, but he's definitely regressed this year. And I think if you've got the option of a Martinez or a Cash, I'd favour the attacking fullback, given how Gerrard uses them.
And if you're in a good position, let's say rank-wise, and you don't need to go haul chasing, I have no problems with what you're looking at, Zoph, at the moment, which is Edison. Just take and forget. If you especially don't have a BB to deploy in the future.
And this is safe 6. Like that the thing appeal with Ramsdale again is the ceilings, because like you said, United are struggling a bit to score. West Ham, they're going to play either side of the Europa League game. 36, the Leeds fixture again could see a clean sheet. 38 again is good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I do like that shout, and it's refreshing to hear it, because when you're building a wild card, you know, you sometimes just players become auto picks in a way because it's so talked about. It's actually nice to hear somebody say Ramsdale and kind of throw another name into the hat, and so I'll have a look at that.
Yeah, I'm not convinced. Out of all the options, I'm least convinced about Schmeichel, actually, because I don't know how often they're going to be playing.
Of the pick. Like, you know, you were talking about earlier today in terms of the Gameweek 28 wildcard. You remember, right? We were talking about like Wolves would have been the obvious picks just because the number of fixtures, but we saw how they did. So don't look necessarily for the obvious pick. Good players from good teams.
Yeah, I had you telling me that. You were in my ear all the time, which is why.
I wish somebody would have said that to me 2 weeks ago when I sold Salah for Bruno Fernandes. Swayed by the fixtures. I actually made the Fernandes move prior to the Everton game. So I had Fernandes, who played Everton, Norwich, and Liverpool, and then Salah obviously had City and then United, and I kind of made the move, and it is I captained him as well, which is even worse in both the game week. So it's really hit hard. So that good players, good teams. I might stick that on the wall for next year.
It's literally what I've been following since 25, 26, because I was building a wildcard draft in 28, and obviously I've been chatting with Zoph throughout that, and he's like, there are a few dicey picks, just stick to the good players and good teams, and it's just drilled in my head, and it's actually made me avoid a lot of traps so far.
Good advice.
Move on to our drafts. I don't think there are any particular teams to discuss now in detail. Right.
No, Palace is probably the only one that's a good punt again if you're free hitting in 36.
Just Zaha.
Again, because the fixture run is great.
But just worth mentioning that Gallagher got subbed off yesterday. He's completely gone off the board.
Yeah.
Totally off the
That worries me with Palace in general. If you lose Gallagher and he's not, that team doesn't function the same, I don't think, without his energy in midfield. And they lose to Chelsea in the FA Cup. They were poor last night, although Zaha did have a couple of efforts which came close. But yeah, that was what I was thinking with the free hit 37. This gives me a bit more time to watch them, see how they're going to respond before committing. But the fixtures are really good. Again, it's that they've got a really nice run now, and Zaha looks like the pick, doesn't he?
Yeah. Also, the thing about free hitting in 37 is if you like the look of your team in 37, you just free hit in 38. You can be flexible there.
Before we jump to the drafts, one team I do want to cover, and just two players specifically, Son versus Kane. Now, on the wild card, you obviously have carte blanche. Do you have any preference, Tom?
I did have Kane in a draft a few days ago. Sorry, I didn't have Kane in a draft. I actually had Ronaldo in a draft this double game week. And then I was thinking of transitioning to Kane after this week. Now, obviously, there's a lot of stuff gone on since then, and that's not now. But I did favour Kane just simply because there's so many good midfield options. The forward spots were a bit of a problem for me, and so filling Kane into one of those made more sense. It's really close between the two. They go hand in hand. One does well, the other tends to do well. I mean, I know that Son's kind of blitzed him recently, but if you're going to talk about a longer kind of sample, I expect them to both do well, to be honest. So it's whatever fits your team better and the structure.
And it's great that you mentioned structure. Now, the thing is, now I will discuss my draft set. If I go with Son, I have to play somebody like a Pukki up front every week. That's tricky because you obviously have to play one forward. You can't play 5-5-0. So the advantage with Kane is I don't have to rely on Pukki every week. It's just obviously that 1.3 million. That's the difference.
There are other viable strikers out there now, Zoph. It's not the case like it was maybe a few weeks ago.
I know, but the problem is that
just need to look at your own home.
I know this Timo, but I have to look at I'm still not completely convinced to rely on Timo every week for the rest of the season. I don't think my heart could handle that.
Yeah, I know, but I was just looking at the matchups actually because there are Kane fixtures and there are Son fixtures, and you can actually quite identify that in terms of teams that play a high line and teams that don't. And I was just looking at the matchups here for Spurs. Brentford looks more like a Kane fixture, if you ask me. Leicester is difficult to predict, and the fixtures that I want to talk about are 37 and 38, which is Burnley at home and Norwich away. Now these look like Kane fixtures to me on paper, where you're expecting the opposition to park the bus, and Kane doesn't really need to sit deep because Spurs will have majority of the ball. In such fixtures, I expect Kane to do better. So if you're asking me, the fact if you're free hitting in, let's say, 36, where Spurs have Liverpool away and Arsenal at home, where I don't mind going for a Son over a Kane, I'd like to end the season with Kane in 37 and 30.
You know what sort of reminds me, both these teams could be relegated. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. Kane got 7 goals or something in last 2 games?
Yeah.
Against Hull and somebody else.
Yep.
That might be worth thinking about your transfers for 37, 38, and just, you might be able to lose a midfielder and then bump that money into your forward line, possibly. I mean, I'll be free hitting in 37, so that's different. But if you're not doing that, be aware of those Spurs fixtures to finish the season because they could be really good.
Yep.
Cool. Let's move into our drafts.
Cool.
Right. This is your team first. Ella, could we just discuss your plans first, and we spend a bit more time on the wildcard?
Cool. I've got Dubravka, Trent, Cancelo. I've put Doherty in there so that it's better, so that people are better able to visualize my transfers. Robertson. I've got Mo, Saka, Barnes, and Kulusevski. And up front, I have Ronaldo and Tony. I have 2 free transfers. I rolled a transfer last week. So I'm looking at doing Ronaldo, Doherty, and Barnes to Werner, either Kai or Mount, and Reece James. That's where I still have 1 million in the bank. If I go Mount and Alonso, I have money to upgrade a Kulusevski to a Foden as well. That's where I'm at the moment, but I'm still considering the free hit. I still want to look at a plan where I can get in Raheem Sterling this week so that I can get Son next week. That might involve foregoing a Chelsea asset, but I'm debating that at the moment.
Tom, this is your wildcard draft. Why don't you read it out? This is with a bench boost in 36.
Yeah, so goalkeepers for now, Schmeichel and Foster. Defenders, Cancelo, Alonso, Matip, Alexander-Arnold and Emerson Royale. Midfielders, Sterling, Mount, Salah, Dewsbury, Hall and Foden, and then a front line of Werner, Pukki and Nketiah. And I will say this is very much a work in progress. I'd be very surprised if I end up on this, but this is kind of where I was at this morning. And I mean, the bench boost, it's quite a tricky one to build. I'm quite envious of those who haven't got to think about that. But I think players like Dewsbury Hall are really appealing because they're dirt cheap and they offer good bench boost options. I just hope Vardy's back for the double, because I think that creating chances isn't a problem for Leicester, but they need somebody to be finishing them, and they're not getting that with Iheanacho and Daka. So if Vardy could come back into the fold, I think that's really going to boost Dewsbury Hall's prospects for that double.
Who are the locks over here?
Cancelo, Alexander-Arnold, and then it will be a Chelsea defender, Alonso or James. I think Sterling's pretty much locked in, given the position that I'm in. A Chelsea midfielder, Mount or Havertz. Salah, I don't think I'll be brave enough to go without. I know we spoke about it earlier, and maybe I will have to do that, but at the moment it feels quite scary. The front line could change. I mean, Pukki's looked really good recently, hasn't he? And he's probably the best of that sub 6 million forward option, given that they double as well on penalties. Norwich seem to be playing to his strengths a little bit with those kind of balls in behind, which is what I thought that they would do at the beginning of the season. I thought Gilmore was coming in and he would be that player to kind of thread those balls through to him, which Pukki thrives on. And it seemed to be a long time of them not giving him the service that he needed. But Dowell's come into the team now and it seems to be working for them. So I don't mind keeping Pukki in there. So yeah, there's a few locks, but there's a lot of a lot more tinkering to be done before now and deadline, I think.
Spurs plan?
Well, that's it at the moment. There's got to be. You can't fit everybody in, can you? If you want to get for that double Man City midfield, it's very difficult to get Son in. And in the current setup, I can't do a premium striker. There's got to be some sacrifices with where I'm at the moment. And so that felt like the position where with the Spurs player, which I would kind of move away from. Kulusevski is an option to come in, but I don't really like that cover word. I don't really get that. I think you pick the best options, and I don't know if he's one of them in that price bracket at the moment, given the other options.
I think your best Spurs plan is Sterling.
And then transition to Son maybe after that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And spoke about it earlier, how it is a nice, those kind of premium midfield, they're nice to play around with positions and fixtures, aren't they, if you can. But yeah, it's just, I mean, I've just had like a really bad run this year. I mean, for people who haven't been following, I think I played the triple captain in game week 26 and I was up to about 55k overall. Which felt like a really good position to be in. Now, I expected a drop after that because I didn't play any chips. I think like you were the same, weren't you, Zoph? You didn't play any chips in that kind of period between. And I think everybody who didn't do that, we were expecting some regression because those chip strategies, they involved 2 or 3 chips, didn't they, for people? It was like a free hit, it was a bench boost, it was a triple captain. And so I dropped quite badly after that. Game week 30 kind of summed it up. I think I was one of those managers who had the 4 no-shows. Was it like Kilman and Ramsdale, Martinelli, Rafinha. And I got to that kind of point and I thought, well, I was around about 100k then and I thought it's not good. But then I thought, well, now we're on a bit more of an even playing field. But it's just gone really badly wrong since then. That Salah to Fernandes move. And I went early on Sancho as well. And obviously that's just backfired really, really badly. Last night, no Rudiger, Martinelli, I dropped into the 200k kind of range. So it's been really tough. It's not nice, is it? I don't want to dwell on it. I don't want to be too negative, but I think it's sometimes good talking about it, isn't it? Because other people are in the same position as well. And so it's kind of like the confidence has been kind of knocked a little bit. And I'm just hoping that, the last kind of, I can have a bit of fun in the last few weeks and take a bit of confidence into next season. Because it's not good when you're struggling and working in FPL full time as well. You can't really escape it either and switch off from it. So it feels like a big few weeks, and I just hope I can get a bit more enjoyment out of it. Really.
I mean, everything you're saying is just reminding me of last season. What really does tend to happen is you're trying really, really hard to overcompensate and make grounds and make moves that are not simpler on paper, and that's exactly.
It's much easier when you're in those top positions, isn't it? Because you play sensibly, you do the right moves. I think if I'd been 50k or something, that Salah to Fernandes switch probably isn't something which should happen. But you're looking for those high impact players. I analysed those 3 fixtures against Salah's 2. I timed it so that it was the City match that I lost him on. Which always feels, I know I think he got the assist in that game, didn't he? But it feels better when you're losing a player like Salah ahead of City. And it just went badly wrong. And Sancho as well, I got in before Leicester, and that's been an absolute disaster. What has happened? I couldn't believe he was benched the other night. And they went with Elanga and Rashford at top. That just made no sense to me at all. when he came on, they did have that little bit of a lift, didn't they? I mean, it was a very small lift, but it was a little bit of a lift. And so, yeah, it's just loads has gone wrong, and it's a bit rubbish, but let's just hope I can kind of finish strongly.
Yeah. Tom, just one comment. I've been looking at your wildcard draft. I'd be looking at converting Matip to Laporte and then use Jota in the Foden spot. This is something you can probably think about.
Yeah, no, that's really, yeah. Well, when we were chatting earlier, that was Laporte is only a bit more expensive than Matip, so that could be done. And yeah, Jota's a good 1 week punt, isn't he? Well, maybe not. Maybe it'll be more than 1 week, but it depends on the Champions League lineup, doesn't it? That's gonna if Diaz, Mane, and Salah, which I think is the first choice 3 for Liverpool right now. We're going to get these players a bit like Sterling last year. He benefited so much from that Champions League campaign, didn't he? Yeah. It's these high impact players who can go and get 2 or 3 goals in a game, which you want. So Jota, again, we speak about Sir Sterling being a 1 week punt, but if he's benched in the UCL, then suddenly he's probably a 2 week punt. So it's yeah, I mean, it does. Even though I'm going through a really rubbish run, planning this wildcard is what I love about FPL, and you can still enjoy it. And feels like there's loads of good options to get excited about this week, and for free hitters as well. And yeah, it's pretty exciting.
It's actually what you said when we had you on for the roundtable, where how do you deal with bad weeks? And it's what you said. It's just, delve and go deeper into planning for next week, and that's all. Just don't look back, just look forward, and that's all you can do.
Well, that's it. But the problem is for me is that I think I've had like 10 reds in the last 11, so I keep looking forward, and it's not good. How long can I carry this on for? I think I need a good pre-season to go away and go and analyse. I mean, I don't know. You kind of say go away and analyse your game, what you're doing differently. But FPL can sometimes be like this, can't it? I mean, we can make the best decisions, but and stuff. And I do think as well, like I think I forget who you said made the point. Was it Bullet? I think. But yeah, the double game weeks make you focus on players which you maybe don't want to, but you feel like you need to play that. And because there's been so many of these bloody double game weeks, it's like week after week. That's why we've been looking at Weghorst and players like that, and maybe ignoring those other players for it. And it's been difficult, hasn't it? But yeah, I mean, after the season finishes, I'll be able to go and have a proper look at it and see what. There have been mistakes, I have no doubt about that, but I do think I've been a bit unlucky as well. So have a look at it.
I have no doubt in my head you're going to be coming back very, very strong next season. Zero doubts in my head.
Well, hopefully, because I mean, last season was pretty average, so it feels like I need a good one, and I've got So let's see what happens.
Yeah, variance this season has been brutal, and it's not suited players like us, Tom. We are very similar in terms of our playing style. We like to plan 5-6 weeks in advance, and there's always this asterisk every week. This fixture could drop. This fixture could get deleted. It's very difficult to plan and move ahead. So this season,
and I think
especially, I
as well,
wouldn't read too much into that. The variance has been so high. Seems every decision you get wrong, you just get punished by not by 1 or 2 points. You get punished by 20 plus points.
Yeah, and I do think another thing which I maybe made a mistake, I played the early free hit as well. I played the free hit, when we were handed the second, I think within a couple of weeks I did that. And then that affected my chip strategy. I think when a lot of people when you feel like when you spent a chip and other people have got it, you maybe want to hold back on your others because you don't want to overcommit too soon. So I think had I done that, then a wild card in 26 or 28, I think like you did, Ella, I think that probably would have been something I did. I mean, I benefited from an early wild card this year. I went in game week 7 and it worked well. And maybe that's what, maybe I've held on. Maybe I should have done this wild card at least in 31 because to give yourself time to get back into it. And so that's something again to think about in the kind of the debrief at the end of the season.
Yep. Cool. We'll move to your wildcards off. Where are you at? And it makes for interesting discussion because Tom has to make sure he has a playing bench because he has a bench boost to play, while Zoph doesn't have a bench boost. So it'll be interesting viewing in terms of what to do.
So I'm kind of between two drafts. They're largely similar players, and my focus has been now to get as many players as possible from the top 4, top 6 sides, because motivation is a big thing. I want guys who are going to be playing for something till the end of the season, and naturally these guys are for better teams. So in goal currently I've got Edison and a 3.9 goalkeeper. In defense, James, Trent, Robertson, Cancelo and Ben Davies. In midfield, Saka, Mount, Salah, Dewsbury Hall, and Son. Werner, Pukki, and a 4.5 Dutch striker up top. Thoughts on this, guys?
Where's the City attacker?
That's the problem. I think that's the thing now. This other draft is what I'm like currently tilting towards more, primarily because I don't have to play Pukki every week. Now, this is Ramsdale in goal with the 3.9 keeper. I've put Laporte in place instead of Davies, so it becomes a back five. Effectively, Laporte and Pukki are the same price. And if you ask me who's going to score more points from now till the end of the season, I'd definitely pick Laporte over that. Saka, Mount, Salah, Dewsbury Hall say the same, but I moved Werner to Havertz in midfield. And now Havertz and Foden are about the same price. I've got 0.6 in the bank with this. I can even go Havertz to Mahrez if I see something good. And I saw an interesting stat yesterday. I think Baker showed it to us against Adar about the goal contributions this season. I think Mahrez is top. He's got around 31, where KDB is like 22 or 24. So on 36, I don't think if they get a double, Mahrez is a decent punt. So I get money for that. And then right now I've got the two Leeds 4.6 guys and Kane. So over here, I don't have
free hit 37.
Free hit 37, yep. So here I don't have any player from outside the current top 5, top 6. So I'm currently leaning a little bit more towards this.
I just find a way to plan a transfer to get your Spurs attacker next week and go big on City this week. That's the only thing
I get your point, but I can only do that with the Sun draft. Otherwise, it's 2 transfers with Kane to do the reverse.
Hashtag take a hit, Zoph.
But yeah, Pukki, again, we've seen his numbers are up, but again, you look at the fixtures that they are playing. I'll just go back to the ticker really quick. And they play Newcastle at home, who just kept a clean sheet. They've generally been good defensively, even though they've been much better at home versus away. Eddie Howe's Newcastle are pretty good defensively. Then you have Villa, who are at Villa Park, and they're generally much better at home. You have West Ham and Leicester, who are obviously leaky defensively, but at the same time, you'd expect them, Norwich not necessarily to score. And the last game of the season, you have Tottenham, which could have goals. But playing Pukki every week, I'm not really that comfortable with it still.
I think you can, if you can go back to that draft just so that I have it in front of me. I think you can have a few moving pieces where you just adjust a couple of positions. I like Laporte as in don't play Pukki every week. I completely buy that. But just keeping the guys you're keeping constant, let them be constant. Maybe move Saka, maybe get Spurs, get Son in there and get a Werner. Just maybe a couple of positions move around so that you have that opportunity to attack.
Because the thing is, Havertz is somebody I definitely want to sell. After 34 and Havertz to a Foden, segues very easily.
If you even manage to keep some cash in the bank, you can segue a Havertz to a Son if it's a planned transfer. So just see if you can figure out a way outside of your must-haves.
Because the City, I do want to attack City. I get your point completely about that.
You have to attack City.
But at the same time, I might even make 2 transfers in 36 and go for a De Bruyne. Do like a Mount and Havertz to somebody like a Gordon or a Ramsey, something like that. I sort of want to have my pick of the City attacker for 36 if they double there.
Fair enough.
I think that's about it.
Also, just wanted to mention actually, because I'm maybe looking at getting 2 Chelsea players or 3 Chelsea players this week, and a lot of people who are not on Wildcard are thinking, okay, that zeros is on. You're getting 3 Chelsea for the 36 game week, and you're definitely free hitting in 37. That makes me actually lean more towards free hitting in 36. The more Chelsea I get, the more inclined I am to free hit in 36. It's just something worth pointing out.
But those guys won't play in 37 either. Very likely, because it's going to be 3 days after the FA Cup. So the Chelsea guys, you will still need to sell them. My point is before 36.
I just think getting Kane in a double or a Son in a double and getting the right 3 City in a double is worth more in terms of upside than getting a couple of players from Palace and Villa in 37. That's where I am.
This is a fair point.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you guys have any time for a Q&A, Tom? A short Q&A, 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right, guys. Wow. How many minutes have we clocked so far?
90 minutes.
90?
90 minutes.
Probably the longest pod we've had in a long time.
And our teams are playing in the IPL. Let me check the score. Both our teams are playing in the IPL today, both at the bottom of the table.
It's a derby for Chelsea United as well as IPL.
Oh yeah, the double
Is
derby.
anybody still around? Is anybody still around watching? They probably all turned it off after my 10-minute of season of.
That was my favorite part.
frustration.
That was my favorite part of today's.
I was looking at the comments, Tom, and a lot of people empathize with what you were saying, and actually were just sending in good messages. And we've got 700 still watching us at the moment.
Awesome.
You better have 700
I didn't want to
likes,
dwell on
guys.
it too long.
Yeah, guys, make sure you're hitting like and subscribe just before we move into the Q&A. And we really, really want to get to 20K subs before the end of the season. We're at 18.1-ish at the moment. It's a long shot, but it'd be great if you could help us get there. That's all we're asking. Right, the questions coming in. First one's from Insanely Football. Kane plus Rudy plus Raf out. Werner, James and Mount in for -8. Or Kane, Raf and Martinelli out for Werner, Mount and Foden. Rudy to James is
Rudy has to go.
Pick than
Rudy has to go.
Yeah, Rudy.
He probably won't make it, will he, at the weekend? That was the quote suggested.
And he might be managed now because
weeks.
A groin injury is something that is very easily you can aggravate by playing 3 games a week.
Okay, I'll come to you, Tom, for this question. Who would you sell for Mount, Rafinha or Barnes?
A tough one. Leeds' fixtures are poor, aren't they?
Yep.
But then there's that rotation with Barnes. But you do, if they're out of Europe, and by the time the big double kind of comes around, then Barnes suddenly becomes a good pick. I think I'd probably sell Rafinha first. I think out of the two.
Cool. Question actually, which I think everybody can answer. What's the best TC play left?
36, Salah or De Bruyne?
Yeah, that's fair. Same answer.
Definitely.
Yeah. Cool. Kamzi's asking, hey Kamzi, nice to see you in there. Son plus Werner or Kane plus Mount? Oof. You make that decision yourself. I don't think we need to answer that question. I think that's a decision you need to introspect and make for yourself. There's no wrong answer here, in my opinion. Zoph,
Kane and Mount feels like the safer long-term play, doesn't it?
Yes.
So if you're not booking in transfers
both those guys
into those,
probably on penalties, Kane and Mount for me. But the upside, I do feel ceiling-wise, the ceiling-wise is higher with Son.
Yeah,
that's right. There's no wrong answer. There's no wrong answer.
But if you're going to get Werner in this week, then have another forward in mind. Just to kind of be aware of it. If you do need to move in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. For a Watkins or something like that, have it in mind. I know you're not liking hearing this, boys, because
no, you're right. That's my reason for Werner as well.
It might be fine.
That's my reasoning for Werner as well. The exit options are easier in midfield.
Yeah, fair enough. If you weren't free hitting in 37, Richarlison is sitting right there as an exit option in 37, though. Just saying.
It's just short term.
Nehal Kulkarni. No, as an exit option. That's all.
Right, but I think 36 also.
He gets chances.
Yeah.
You just can't score them.
Yeah. Okay, Nehal's asked a question with Rudiger out. Is it a good option to go to Rudiger? Rudiger to James? Yeah, I think all of us agree. It's a good option. Other moves are Martinelli to Mount. Already have Havertz and Vegas to Gallart. I like that. He's upgrading Martinelli to Mount and downgrading Vegas to Gallart. I have no problems with that.
Martinelli's difficult, isn't he, Martinelli, now? Because everybody keeps saying he's first choice, but he's missed a lot of games, hasn't he?
It's a good thing you mentioned Gerhardt. That's a point I forgot to mention. I got in touch with Beren and I asked him which of the two Leeds guys is better. The two dud forwards, 4.6. He still feels Gerhardt is a better pick than Greenwood.
He should get minutes as well.
Nah. What were you saying?
What do you guys think?
Salah, Mane?
I don't mind it.
Mane instead of Salah.
Double up.
Yeah, if you can do it, it's probably the most explosive double up there.
But are you going to do it? Are you going to do it over a Salah and De Bruyne, or a Salah and Son, or a Salah? Yeah, so it's.
I'm not against it.
Yep, not against it.
Yeah,
can't say it's bad.
Not against it. I think it's explosive in its own right. And historically, I've always mentioned, I don't know if it's fact or I need to look up the numbers, but Mane tends to end seasons well.
Yeah, I agree.
He always tends to
I remember this well.
Yeah, so that's
right from his Southampton days.
Yeah. So I'm not against it. Tom's thinking about Mane now. I can see it.
No,
Karan's
it's just one of those. They're great options, and it could be amazing. It's just if you were to ask me, if City slot into 36, who, given the fixtures, all of that, I would probably take a premium from like a De Bruyne or a Son over Mane. I think, because I think Mane will play most games, won't he? But there's competition up there now. There's 5 players competing for 3 spots up there. I think he'll probably play most weeks.
But what I think is Mane is in Liverpool's both first choice teams. Whether that's playing left with Jota centre forward or whether that's playing centre forward with Diaz on the left.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be too worried about that.
Yeah.
And just another thing, it's just doing disservice to the player. He's been doing really well. He looks, it doesn't look like a fluke. He looks like Liverpool's focal point in attack at the moment. Everybody keeps asking who are the best differentials for the run. And the answers are the expensive guys who aren't popular. Because it's these expensive guys who are capable of explosive 15-20 point hauls who have under 10% ownership. You need to decide who you're betting against, and there are a flurry of options that are good differentials in the game at the moment.
Yeah.
Karan's asking, planning Son, Bruno and Broya for Sterling, Havertz and Werner this game week with Sterling or Havertz cap. I like it. The only person I'm scared of selling is Son, and that's about it. I don't mind it at all.
Yep. No more super chats. I think that's it. And no more super chats, please, guys. We're going to wrap up after the next question.
All right. Is Rudy to cancel a worth for a minus for worth it? Yes. Different league of defender. I think you'll make that 4 points easily before the end of the season. Cool. That's it, guys. Thank you, Tom, for being with us. It doesn't feel like a season at the wire without having you on. So appreciate you being here.
Apologies, it's taken so long. It's just, but yeah, no, I'll definitely try to come on before game week 34 of next season. If you'll have me, of course.
Of course.
We're the mistress that will never go away, Tom. We ask you every week without any shame. If you've denied us next week, we'll come back next week and always ask you. So
I always enjoy coming on, and I think on a wild card, I think it's really good chatting to you too, because you're the kind of people I like to discuss things, and nothing's kind of written off. You analyze everything, different ideas, which sometimes when you're own little bubble you don't think of. So that gives me something to take away from it as well over the next couple of days. So it's been great being on, and always enjoy talking footy with you.
Yes. Good luck to both of you all on the wildcard. Hoping to see a big fat green arrow, and we'll see you next week. Take care, guys.
Hope Chelsea players haul
big
time, which would include big goals at Old Trafford.